here, Harold Burgis, who's probably the patriarch of the congregation, shares with us some of his memories from having served during the Second World War. And so Harold, come forward. He and I are going to have a little dialogue this morning. I spent 4 years. I'm going to start right up here so you people can stop. We spent 4 hours together during the week, and I've really grown an appreciation for Harold and for all he went through, spending that time showing me your maps and your documents from the war. Very touching and moving. That really helped me to appreciate all that you've given people like you. In the entrance, when you come in the tower entrance, you'll see Harold's battlefield citation that he received from Field Marshal Montgomery from the Second World War in tribute for your partnership there. So Harold you served with the 2nd Canadian Corps Signals, which means that you were sort of behind the lines.
I was accompanying the infantry from all the way from Normandy beaches to Germany, a distance of 800 miles. That took me 11 months, and we provided all the signals. We had no phone. You people are lucky you got that information. I don't have. But we laid lines of communication along with the infantry, and we fought the signal corps did from Normandy beaches to Germany, as I said, 11 months, and not 800 miles.
Yes. And now you trained at Camp Borden. You went overseas.
Yeah.
You were actually in England for.
I was, yes, I lived in England for almost 4 years. We trained all the time. We had sports camps, and I was a half miler, and I was the captain of the sports team. But we trained, and then eventually we went to France and fought the war. And then when I was fighting the war on Europe, I ran out of men, and eventually had to get some of those people called conscripts, and you might have read coming to see something about them. And I got a few of them at the end of the war, when they ended the war in Holland. And I lived in Holland for 4 months after the war. And yes.
And now you were in England. There was something pretty significant.
Oh yes, I married an English war bride. I came home December the 7th, 1945. My English war bride came to Canada in March 1946 on a hospital ship called the Tisha. She was pregnant with my first son. Thank you.
When we were chatting, you become pretty good friends with those you serve with.
Yes, he gave me a few things. Do you have any friends in the Army? We had to be all friends. After all, we were fighting side by side. You had to know that this man here was going to protect you, and you were going to protect him. So yes, we became very good friends, all of us men who were fighting, and it made it a little more bearable.
One of our concerns is, what was it like for you and for them when you returned? We hear a lot these days about different.
Well, it's different today. It's a different world today that the boys are coming back to. I've talked to many of the Afghan boys. They talk to me about, and I'm not going to bring it up now, it's called PTSD. I would call it shell shock in my day. If you call it post-traumatic syndrome disorder. And to me it was shell shock. My experience of shell shock during the Second World War, and I don't know much about the First World War, but it was there. But shell shock in the Second World War for me, my brother-in-law went to Dunkirk That was in 1940 when they invaded Dunkirk, and then the next big invasion was 42 when they went to Dieppe. But he went to Dunkirk. When he came back from Dunkirk, and they were driven back out of France, and they came back across the ocean, he arrived in Brighton, and they got on the train, and my wife, who was a young girl then, she met him at Old Station, and he come back, and he was shell-shocked. I have to tell you that. They call it PTSD today. You read it in the paper every day. But he was shell-shocked. He would never hold a job. He couldn't hold a job. I got to tell you what PTSD is. He couldn't hold a job, so he sent his wife up, Betty's sister, sent his wife up in fish and chip stores. They had 2 fish and chip stores. He was a delivery man. And for the rest of his life, he was a wonderful man. But for the rest of his life, I must say this, I didn't like it, because I never drank. I was in the Army and was one of the few guys, my men all drank. They all drank beer, I'm going to tell you. They did, they love beer. But I don't love beer. I don't go to the beach to drink beer. I don't get beer. Anyway, he drank a lot. But he did come back, and he was one of those PTSD guys that you talk about today. But we talk about it as a shell shock.
And the question here is, chaplains are very significant role, but what role did faith play in your life and in the lives of the men?
That's a very good question. In Britain, we all attended church services because we had the time. And I went to many, being an Anglican, which you all are, and I am all my life. I attended a lot of church services, and that, of course, when I went to fight the battles, we didn't have time, we didn't have the pantry, we didn't have the churches. So we never went to church, really, which we did in England. But I must say this, that when I first went to France, the bombs were furious. We dug such trenches, and we would crawl into them at night time, cover them over 18 inches wide, 6 feet long, and 18 inches deep. We would crawl in there. And every night that I managed to go to bed, if I could get some sleep every night while fighting from France to Germany, I would say the Lord's Prayer. I never forgot that. And that was the one thing I can tell you. I never saw a chaplain. The Catholics might have saw a chaplain on this prayer because the Catholic faith is a bit different to ours. They have to have the last right read to them when they're dying. So there was Catholic chaplains there. Yes, there probably was Protestant chaplains, but I never come across one. But I did say the Lord's Prayer every night of my life when I fought in the con. Right.
And finally, what would you say to young people today? What would be a message from you?
Well, I would say all of us, they ask us, why did you join? What's this all about joining the Army? We felt that we were doing our duty for our country back in the 40s there when we joined. And we all volunteered until we ran out of men. I ran out of men when I was fighting them. And the government brought in conscription, and it didn't turn out too good, but they brought it in, and I didn't bring my book today. There were 12 things that did in the New Legion book. I was going to read the all items, and conscription was one of them, and it wasn't taken lightly by the province of Quebec. People probably read that and know that. Mackenzie King brought it in, but if Mackenzie King hadn't brought it in, I don't know how we would have finished the war, because I was losing men and I needed men, and I got these conscripts per se. And I had to tell my men to be careful, not to insult these boys, because they were doing their duty, but they were conscripted, because that's the only way we could get. We didn't have volunteers, all of them joined. And I must say this to you. The boys that I did receive, not the conscripts, but the boys that I did receive at times were quite young. They joined the Army at 17, and I said, my God, you couldn't get out of Canada until you're 18, because your mother would phone the government and say, oh, I need someone to get to England, you can't send them to England. And I've been in your 17, and you finally caught up to me fighting in Belgium. I spent that month in France and Belgium and Holland. And I was very proud of these fellows who did go it. And then, as I say at the end, I did get the conscript, and it was a little bit different. I had to tell the men that fought with me, be careful, don't been called to that. But that was a about and that. But as far as serving today, what would I tell people? It's entirely a personal thing. I think that a young boy want to join the Army, by all means join the Army. You can get a trade, you can get a career, you can go in the Army, and if you survive, you can come out and be a trade. You can earn a good living, you make a good dollar per hour, and that. So I enjoyed my 5 years. Obviously it was war bride, so I got something extra when I was war bride. I have 2 sons, and I hope that the war never comes. We always said the First World War was the war to end all wars. Then we said the Second World War was the war to end all wars. I mean, it hasn't worked, has it? We now have Afghanistan, which is winding down a bit. But young people, if they're inclined, they get a free education. You join the Army today, you'll get a university education for nothing. And where in the world can you get a free education? I must tell you, yes, when I got out of the Army in December the 7th, 1945, would you like to go to university? And I said, oh my God, I was just a high school kid when I joined. And I said, I would love to go to university. I said, boy, I'll have a good job or something. But I said, I can't. My wife's back in England, and she's pregnant, and she's going to have a baby. So what am I? First duty. I've got to get a job, and I've got to get a place to live. But she'll be coming out next year. So I had to forgo the free education that was being offered to the veterans. They still do it again for the Afghan boys and all that. But it's a wonderful career. I could say that because I'm still standing in front of you today. And I have a few words, okay. Now, can I just read a few words to you? I always love to read and get to keep talking to me today, so I'll talk a few words now. Today's talk is a little bit of give and take, correct? I wish to add a few words of my own. Please always kneel and talk to God. He is a good God, a good listener. I cannot say he talks back to me, but I know he hears my prayers to me. After all, God, he held my hand and walked with me during my war years and also during my civilian years when I had many traumatic accidents. I've fallen down the elevator hoistway twice, and I'm standing in front of you. I survived. My leg had 54 stitches on it and things like that, but I'm still here. I think the dear Lord and I survived those 11 months fighting those Germans besides the infantry, and I'm still here to talk to you today. I want you to kneel at church and tell God you love him because he loves you. In the circles, all these circles, 5 circles, 4 to 12 times. Every time I look at that circle, I go through it. I'm telling you, in these circles, from 4 to 11 times the word love appears. I want to talk about the word love, and that's why I mentioned it. In the circles we get at church, I read the word love, and they're 4 to 11 times. So please tell him you love him. He listens, yes. God held my hand for the 11 months. I fought from Normandy, I said all that. Anyway, I want to thank you all for coming here and being here. I put a box there. I saw in the paper today that the government, you know, they're always running out of money. They don't have money to give to the veterans. They don't have money to give to you or I or the poor people. But they're running out of money for the burying the destitute soldiers. We call it the poppy fund. We have the cemetery prospect up on Sinclair, where we have the last post, and I've been there for the veterans that don't have any money, and that's what the coffee fund is for, to buy the plot there. But we're running out, so I bought a box of coffee, and if you haven't got a coffee, put a little bit of money in and take a coffee. If not, I'll put a $5 bill in for you. So there you go. But anyway, that's all I have to say. And it's been a pleasure for me to be here as a member since 1978 when I moved to Pickering. I've been a member now for 30-some years or whatever. And thank you very much to all of you on Remembrance Day. Thank you.